Professor Frank, good evening there and good morning here. I am in Asia, so we are on opposite sides of the world, but we're close enough.
Yeah, the electrons made it possible, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not only close enough, similarly like science and art that you had brought so close together. So it's a very interesting and very impressive feeling to be in opposite sides of the world, and also sometimes to be in opposite of the so-called science and art. But you have brought them together, and SIPS struggled since the beginning to bring together different fields of science and art at the same time. That's why it's a great pleasure for me to record together this presentation for SIPS, which is actually very unique because there are not too many Nobel laureates that are also at the same time scientists, and even less writers like you are. So it's I cannot express myself the feeling I have while introducing you for this very special.
Okay,
very special.
It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah.
Oh, the pleasure is always our, Professor Frank. So I'll give you the word to present really something that the others do not have. Art and science. What brings them together, and if something that separates them. Your words is unique. So this is your presentation, and you can start.
Yeah. Well, thanks for inviting me and for making this presentation possible. And thanks for advancing the slides for me. I'm in control, but not totally in control. I rely on... Okay.
You are in control.
So this is the house that Jack built. This is sort of an programmatic title, and you will later see what it entails. And so I'm going to have a contemplation on arts and science, images and texts. So I entitled this in my abstract corpus "CALLOSUM at Work, Mutual Inspiration of Science and the Arts." And in this talk, I would like to explore anecdotally the way science and the arts influence each other. What are their common roots? What happens in our brain? And more general, in what ways do texts relate to images? The three relationships we can identify are ekphrasis, illustration, and crosstalk. I'm mostly drawing from material accumulated in my own life as scientist, photographer, and writer. So this picture brought it all together for me. It is sort of an iconic picture because I sat in Central Park on a bench with my wife, and then suddenly I saw this beautiful image there. I saw the dog and the shadow of the dog, which is really like a projection of the dog. There's 3D and 2D, and there's myself there in the entire picture. And it's a 3D object and its projection. And that was Sunday, October 1st, 2017. 3 days later, I got the call from the Nobel Foundation that I had won the Nobel Prize in chemistry. But all my work was all about three-dimensional reconstruction. So this was an absolute coincidence. So this picture here brings science and arts together in a beautiful way. So throughout my life, and particularly in the past 2 decades, I've been looking, I've been studying books on visual thinking. And the people I want to mention is Edward Tufte, who is a little younger than me and still alive. And then Rudolf Arnhem, he is the author of Visual Thinking. Edward Tufte, The Visual Display of Quantitative Information. And then Susan Sontag, very famous, and notes on camp and on photography. And then John Berger, it's a very peculiar person. He has written many, many essays on ways of seeing, really. Now, I'm particularly interested in Edward Tufte's work because he looks at the visual display of quantitative information, and really he brings together science and art in a very interesting way. And he has collected instances where the presentation of information is really at its best. And the next slide shows a picture that has been quoted many times and reproduced many times. It's a map originally published by Charles Joseph Minard in 1869. It shows at once the temperature, geography, army size advancing and retreating of this disastrous Napoleon invasion in Russia. And you can see from a massive number of troops, a very tiny portion came back because of the winter, of the temperatures in the winter. So this is a very famous picture of him. Now, Tufte is interesting, next slide, because he is still active, and he created the E.T. modern Hopewell Hill Farms in Connecticut. I've never been there. I always had it on my plans, and somehow I missed it out. But he has these monumental sculptures in a park, and it must be very fantastic to see this. Next slide. So I just feel that arts and science can be seen as means to put order into a chaotic world, and I think, you know, I sort of feel that maybe my whole experience being born during the World War II and seeing the ruins around me has something to do with it. This is not an actual picture of me in the ruins, but I just took it as an example. But I experienced the destruction of houses around me as a 3-year-old in World War II. But we are interested in the relationship. The science illustration, there are many science illustrations of methods or results in which the art is ancillary. So there is something to be brought across, and then art is just used in order to do it in some kind of a metaphoric way. And there is another relationship in which the science looks at how art is made. There can be layers that one can study, where the science is ancillary. And the most interesting thing is when science and art are interacting. They can be seen as two ways of approaching reality. One is very formalized, and the other one is informal, but draws from a very large heritage. Both draw from a very large heritage. And then in science, there are many metaphors that are borrowed from the arts. If you read a scientific article and look very, very carefully at the word choices, you see so many instances in which metaphors are used, and metaphors in a most general sense. And then there's another relationship which interests me, where art is depicting scientists in contemplation of their work. And this is also iconography. And I have many instances of this I've looked at, and I just want to present to you, these to you as a whole series in a very quick sequence. The next slide. Yeah. So scientists and contemplation of their work. We realize that all of these are staged. There's always, because a scientist will never be seen in front of of his products, his or her products. It is always a staged way of presenting him after some great achievement. And very often we see the scientists with items that cannot possibly be in the same room, but they're still staged as if these were objects of his world. The next slide. So I got interested in this whole iconography because when I got a Nobel Prize, and the next year there was an interview in the Berkshire Eagle, which is a local newspaper in the Berkshires, and the journalist asked me to bring something with me that would be somehow, showing off my science. And then, of course, I had a model of the ribosome. The ribosome is one of the beautiful molecules that I put so much attention to. And then she photographed me in this way, contemplating the ribosome, which I never do. Okay, I never look at it and then contemplate it. But this is a typical staging, which you can see in many instances throughout the medieval and even the ancient times. And I will show you a whole sequence of these, and we go through this very quickly, but then you can see the richness of these kinds of representations. Okay. Okay, it goes back, way, way back. Roger Bacon. There's another one for Roger Bacon, Islamic scientist. Here we have something from China. And then, of course, Galileo Galilei, Isaac Newton. Here's another one for Isaac Newton with the planets right in its room. Here's the first microscope. The famous Robert Koch, Marie Curie, Hauptmann. You see this model in his hand. Here again, Don Caspar. He's known for coming up with the idea of quasi-equivalence because it is an explanation how viruses can be composed of identical units and which don't quite fit to each other. So one has to try to find the rules of how this can possibly happen. And he is credited with very careful studies of this. And then I found this picture again, which is really much earlier than the Berkshire one, and somehow this person at the Wadsworth Center in Albany pictured me as if I was some kind of a medieval scientist. Yeah, I mean, it's really iconographic. And of course, the ribosome is in the background. The ribosome is at a state where it's just been, for the first time, elucidated in this great detail. Okay, and here we have, I just wanted to juxtapose these two things. Yeah, and this I find really funny because Svante Pääbo, who received the 2022 Physiology or Medicine Nobel Prize for his anthropological studies, paleoanthropological studies, and he, of course, comes up in a pose that we know from Shakespeare, from Hamlet. The next slide. To be or not to be. So this is the end of my series of iconographic slides, which I thought was really fun to look at. Next slide. Next slide. And then we all know as scientists the value of graphical abstracts. The present technology with the online presentations, digital presentations, makes it possible to make these kinds of graphical explanations, and many journals have adopted this now. So a concept and a method is conveyed in visual form, and it is essentially simplified so that one can get a very fast concept of it, and making a graphical abstract that is effective is an art all by itself. Next slide. So I'm just showing three abstracts, three graphical abstracts that we have made, and this one here shows the idea of time-resolved imaging, and so the idea here is that we actually put the molecules there in visual form, and they go through the different pipelines, and you see exactly what's going on. They're getting mixed, and then they get sprayed, and so forth. So it's a way of getting this entire idea across, even though the execution of this has a great complexity in the end. And this has something to do with the mystery of why the naked mole rat has such a long lifespan. And here I'm sort of, you could think of this as an inspiration by Tufte. The lifespan is shown, and then they're ordered exactly in the order of the lifespan, and the possible cause underneath is the differences in the ribosome. And this is a peculiar discovery that we made, that the passage through a microsprayer doesn't damage the ribosome. In fact, it increases its its way of making proteins. So it's an absolute puzzle, but we are trying to get an explanation. Next one. Yeah, and then I'm going a little off the science and arts and talk about juxtaposition of image and text. Now, you could say that image is sort of more related to arts and text more to science, but that's not quite true, because image and text are also in photography and painting and versus literature. But here, the interesting thing is that both have some kind of let's say placeholder in the development of signal processing and electrical engineering and image processing. A Playboy image was used. It's only the top has been used, but it's been used thousands and thousands of times in order to show the effect of image processing. In design and publishing, people want to show the appearance of the text at a certain place, but they don't fill it with contents. Instead, they use a placeholder text. And that placeholder text has been for centuries. This one here, a nonsense Latin text. Lorem ipsum dolor sit amet consecutor, and so forth, you know. And this is really fantastic to think about. The next slide. So, as I've said at the beginning, there are three different relationships between image and text. Ekphrasis, the use of detailed description of a work of visual arts as a literary device. So you could be in contemplation of a piece of art, of a painting, and then go on and you explain all the associations and talk about this work. This is ekphrasis. Illustration is exactly the opposite. You have a text, and then you want to go into a visual explanation, or you want to say what you actually mean. And very often, a picture is 1,000 words. And then I'm also interested in the synthesis of image and text in the brain. And for me, it's the cognitive adventure created by a juxtaposition of text and a completely unrelated image. And I will show you examples of this. Next. So you might not be surprised that I've been in an arts collective when I first came to the United States, and so there was this organization called Workspace Loft Incorporated that existed for around 10 years and was the source of many performances and gallery shows in various media. Now this entire an archive of this is now deposited at SUNY Albany in a special collection. There are boxes and boxes of this, and you can get on the internet and at least see the contents of these boxes, the titles, but not any more of this. Next one. Okay, so this is the appearance of this work in the special collections and archives. Next. And during that time, we had a journal called Prof that exists only in something like 13 issues. And I was, for some of the time, I was an editor of this. And Prof really had many instances in which images and text were juxtaposed. Next. Yeah. So I have a couple of instances in which texts are randomly assigned to images. And the meaning very often arises from these juxtapositions, because our brain is made in such a way that it always tries to find meaning, even in completely unrelated circumstances. Okay, next. So this is an exploded view of a very complicated thing, and then it's juxtaposed with an outline of a soap opera, and so we have now an association of the different persons with different parts of this thing, and this is an example of what we had in Prof. Okay, next. Yeah, it's an exploded version of a tool with parts annotated by the summary of a TV series episode. The next. So it's this is the contents of a house labeled, maybe for architectural use, and this was put together with my first Memorial Weekend, which is an actual, the next one, yeah, which is an, I'm sorry, yeah. So it's a questionnaire about drug experience, okay? So here, the association is between the numbers of these questionnaires and parts of the house. Next one. Yeah, next. And texts inspired by images. There is a series which is which are now the last slides that I'm going to show. Next one. Yeah, first I want to say that there was a forerunner of all our social networks, which is Cowbird. Unfortunately, it faltered in 2017, but it was a beautiful tool in which you could present an image or a series of images together with a story. And the emphasis was always on the story and the creation of the story. And so this is just a snapshot of these stories. And there, in the end, I published something like 300 of them. And they're still somehow available if one goes to the Wayback Machine. The next one. Yeah, these are stories that I generated. So that 24 highest liked Cowbird entries out of 335. Next one. Okay, so here we have photographs and then a text underneath. And here, this is now a made-up legend, which is sometimes completely invented, sometimes not completely related, and so forth. So here, it does not happen every day that gravity is defeated by this margin. The balance is so precarious that a mere cough will suffice to bring the edifice to fall. People walking by, like the man in the background, put their voices to a whisper. I did not dare return to the beach the next day. Next one. It is difficult to live in the house that Jack built. In certain rooms, one has to walk under an angle. Every night I go to sleep, I'm unsure if this might be the night of the final geometric transformation. To be on the safe side, I sent my children to stay with their aunt. One cannot be careful enough, especially in the storm season, which has just begun. Next. Next. Okay. We'd hang them up and let the clouds go by and watch them drive from behind the cabin, and would forget ourselves just watching the sound and the clouds go by. And next. In tonight's performance of Fiddle Stomp, due to indisposition of Rosa Pendergast, the part of the prima ballerina will be played by understudy Betty Letterby. We thank our patrons for their understanding. Next. Hidden in plain view across the country are the relay notes of the National Security Agency. Here's where whispers converge to become rumors, from which insinuations are distilled that eventually become hard facts. These, in turn, are stored away in underground safes, out of reach of humanity, where they mature over decades into indisputable facts. Out of those safes is situated, one of these safes is situated in a salt mine in Nevada, right next to the simmering nuclear refuse. Okay, I will stop here. Next slide. Mermaids who have been through thorough training toward an existence outside their elements and have been approved for transformation will choose a solitary spot, and with a flick of their torso will shed the tail fin, the single obstacle to their new life. On my walks on the beach of the Olympic Peninsula, I was not lucky enough to catch one of those fascinating creatures at the moment of their water-to-earth transformation, but I found plenty of evidence, fins that had turned green already from lack of oxygen. Next. Yeah, so Frank's fiction, I just want to draw attention to, is a place where you can find many of these pictures and texts and some of my short stories. I'm not sure whether we are at the end of the presentation or is there anything else? All right, okay. Here's an ancient telescope on the beach of Olympic Peninsula with set magnification of 1:1. We cannot help but admire the ingenuity of people who gave us this early unmagnified yet dignified and precise vision of our immediate surroundings. Next. Yeah, this is just a few pictures from some of the images that I have published in Hole in the Head review. The next. All right, here is always the picture, and then the next is the text. Next slide. Persistence of an Arctic flower. The enduring flower itself is not visible in these pictures. New York Botanical Garden, the Bronx, is, I just want to draw attention again to Frank's fiction, franksfiction.com. Okay, thanks a lot for going with me through this journey.
Thank you very much, Professor Frank. Just one simple question. How science help arts? Somebody that has the sense of arts is missing something in achieving in science and vice versa.
I'm sorry, I couldn't. Can you say it again?
I said again.
Yeah.
someone is an artist and a scientist, do they help each other? Does science make you a better artist? And does art make you a better scientist?
Yeah, both is true. Both is true because my artwork really benefits from the acuity of observation and from precision of in the use of texts and so forth, and so this is how art benefits. Science benefits from the richness of metaphors, and so I'm, walking through my life, taking in so many observations, and they are somehow always bring me inspirations of how to solve problems.
And the inspiration is the same in the art and in science.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And with these good words, we conclude this magnificent presentation. I guess it's the first one between a relation between science and art, which have been always the purpose of SIPS, to bring not only different fields of science together, but also art and science, to bring them together. Professor Frank, it was a pleasure. Yeah. It was a pleasure and honor for me to be with you in this presentation, which again, I'm repeating for the third time, it is unique. And we thank you very much to bring us this overview and this point of view of uniqueness between science and art.
It was great to be here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.